Hey, so would you like to use sprint burst or double it and give it to the next person? Double it? Well, let me introduce you to the brand new Syringe. If used correctly, you can get not one, not two, but 3 total sprint bursts back to back to back. In the most recent PTB, Behaviour made a change to Syringes, which was originally thought to be a nerf, but it didn't take long for us scholars to stop and think. Like, what's more powerful? An add-on that allows you to insta-heal if you can successfully avoid being hit, or an add-on that instantly gives you sprint burst so you can escape to the next safe tile? If you're still on the fence, I can at least tell you which one's more fucking annoying. Syringes are definitely weaker in the hands of inexperienced survivors, but for a survivor who can already juice me for 5 gens, it's basically game over for us killer mains. See, I'm confused. They added pallets to maps in order to reduce the amount of dead zones, but it made good survivors even more cracked. They added anti-tunneling features to make the survivor experience better, but good survivors play aggressive with it and it makes them even more cracked. And then you add in a perk combination that allows survivors to instantly heal off hook so they become even more cracked. And then now Syringes? I'm just thankful Behaviour gave us Bloodlust that cancels the second a killer uses their power. I know Behaviour is looking for some new ways to keep the game enjoyable, so how about this? We remove killer completely and just make it 4 survivors and 1 spectator. That way I could at least relax while I watch 5 gens pop in my face. And that's me being dramatic. Like, I try to stay positive about the game for the most part, but I had one comment on my last video that really got to me. It was along the lines of, well, the killers got all the buffs in the first part of the year and now it's the survivors' turn. And that made me stop for a second. Like, maybe us killer mains are just too soft. Maybe we have it too good. Wait, no, what the f did killers get? They fixed spawn logic and made Myra's high B tier? Killers haven't gotten this year. And look, I've seen a lot of doom and gloom videos, and this is not one of those. I actually think there's some takeaways from the PTB that are positive. But before I can go over that, now it's time to stay in the loop. If you need the DVD scoop, it's time for you to stay in the loop. Welcome back to In the Loop, your #1 source for Dead by Daylight news. And we gotta have an honest conversation about these new syringes. So for the previous version of syringes, you could use them 2 ways. You could just slap someone with the syringe and they can run off and start working on a generator and it will heal them while they're doing it basically. Or you could use it more aggressively mid-chase to get a health state back. Both were impactful because obviously it takes time to heal, and the less time you're healing, you could run on to a gen and do more gen progress. But I'd argue using a syringe in chase was like the more effective way to do it. But now that they updated syringes to take away your exhaustion, there's really only one way to use it, and it is in chase. You know, once you get a free second, you pop the syringe, you get your sprint burst back or your life back or maybe your head on back. So now I would say the skill expression for syringes is like a little bit higher. Like, it's going to be harder for a beginner survivor to pull off a syringe play. And that's not inherently bad. Like, I know when they dumbed down flashlights, a lot of people were upset. They liked the fact that it took some skill to utilize a flashlight. And with these syringes, they're like doing the opposite. They're making it harder for everyone to use, but the people that know how to use it and can use it effectively are going to make the game so annoying for killers. Scott posted this clip of him hitting sprint burst basically 3 times in a row, because you can use your sprint burst, and then you can use blood rush, and then you can use your syringe. And this is just going to make the life of like low tier M1 killers even worse. Like, if you're not a dash slop killer, how are you going to catch up to these survivors? So what's my opinion? I think in a perfect world, the syringes are actually fine, but that's not taking into account the current state of the game. The game is not in a position where you give juicers another tool to juice you for longer. And it's weird because Dead by Daylight seems to be making the game more casual, and then they make this change. Let me know your thoughts on syringes. Do you think it's a buff? Do you think it's a nerf? Do you think these changes will make it live? Because I'm not convinced, and neither is this week's Voice of the Fog. If you guys are not familiar, every week we highlight a comment from last week's episode. This week's Voice of the Fog is from Michelle Martins 993, who said, "This update is amazing. It made me even more eager to play Arc Raiders." I'm not gonna lie, when I read that comment, it caught me completely off guard. I thought they were actually excited to play the game. Well, I still am, but we can't do another episode of In the Loop without talking about these anti-tunneling, anti-slugging, and anti-camping changes. Here's the thing about the changes that they put in the PTB. I already talked about this a fair bit in my last video, where I felt like they were solving the wrong problem. My whole argument was in order to get rid of tunneling and slugging and camping, you have to find a better way for killers to create pressure. So if you just do these changes, killers are going to have to play sweatier, they're going to have to play more in line with the meta, they're going to have to play with more powerful killers, which I think is a bad direction to go in. Like, I see where their head is at with these changes. Like, I understand the value these changes would have to a newer player. I think the biggest issue is, like, what about the killer side of things? Like, they didn't address that at all. And I think before they roll out anything like that, they got to go back to the table and figure out how they can make killers' lives a little bit easier. And the whole bloodlust thing is absolutely terrible. Like, there's a long list of like things that will cancel bloodlust, and basically all the killer powers will do that. Like for Ghostface, for example, if you hook a survivor, usually when you hook a survivor, you turn the corner and go back into your night shroud, so you get the stealth ability. So with this new bloodlust change, you lose your bloodlust when you go into night shroud. So you would have bloodlust for all of what, like 3 seconds? And Ghostface is like one of the worst killers in the game. And I think another huge issue with this is some people use these anti-tunneling abilities to play aggressive. Like if you have the endurance and the haste, you can go put yourself in a position to get a flashlight save, and the killer really can't do anything about it. Like if they hit you, you're gonna have your endurance. You can't leave the survivor slug there because they can start picking themselves up. It puts you in like a really weird position where survivors are using this anti-tunneling stuff to benefit their team. But if your behavior, like how do you control this? Like how can you force people to use these anti-tunneling measures correctly? You really can't, to my knowledge. And again, I don't think the changes themselves are terrible. I just don't think Behavior's understanding the bigger picture. But two people that did understand the bigger picture are on this week's Hooked Highlight. So if you guys don't know, I go to my Discord every week and select one clip as this week's Hooked Highlight. This week's Hooked Highlight is from Tyler, which is the dynamic duo of Tiv and Skylar, who had kind of a weird series of events to get an insane head-on stun. So it starts off with Tiv missing a head-on and getting downed. Skylar fakes running up the stairs and comes back down and crouches behind the Spirit. The Spirit turns around thinking Skylar left the basement. She can't find him and turns back around to pick up Tiv. And when she does, Skylar's waiting there to get the head-on save. Kind of a crazy clip, and a clip I don't know if they could replicate even if they tried, but it was enough to be this week's Hooked Highlight. If you have a clip you want to submit, make sure to join the Discord. Drop it in our Discord for your chance at being next week's Hooked Highlight. And maybe it'll be a crazy clip of you unhooking yourself with Wicked and Resurgence. So if you guys don't know, they made some changes to Wicked where it gives you like 50% recovery when you unhook yourself or get unhooked in the basement. Well, very quickly, people realized you could pair this with Resurgence to get yourself an insta-heal. So if you've played the PTB at all, you've probably seen a ton of people running this combination and running into the basement and unhooking themselves like fully healed, and it's been wild. Like I'm 90% sure this will not make it into the live game, but if the player base thought about this immediately, like why was it overlooked? So let me know if you've been able to try out this perk combo, and let me know if you think there's any chance it makes it live exactly like this. Honestly, I think it's like a 10% chance. I think it's very, very, very unlikely it makes it live like this. But I can't see the future, so we'll go over to Straz with the fog forecast. Thank you, Straz. Yeah, if you guys aren't aware, the PTB is live right now. Behavior just asked for some feedback on the PTB, so make sure you go and submit your thoughts. I have a feeling they're not going to be too kind. And don't miss 2v8 coming out November 6th, which is this Thursday. The blood point economy is going to be booming, but so are killer queue times. Expect 10 to 15 minute waits, even if you're playing 1v4. At 2v8, you could see it get up to 20-25 minutes depending on the time. Hopefully they still have the play while you wait feature, which they tried out last 2v8. That I think was a very good addition. That's all I have here for the fog forecast. Now back to Straz. Okay, for the final topic, we're gonna get a little serious here for a second. I just want to talk about the state of the game in general. So there's a lot of people that are very frustrated. There's a lot of people that say like they're just straight up leaving the game. And for those who have been playing the game for a very long time, like I can understand that. And they're tired, they're burnt out. They feel like all of their comments are falling upon deaf ears. But I think it's important that we don't just completely throw our hands up and say like we're screwed. Like at the end of the day, Behavior's making these changes because they feel like it's for the betterment of the game. You know, they want less people uninstalling it. They want a healthier player base, you know, not just veteran players, but a healthy flow of new players coming in. And while it's important to criticize Behavior, we can't be all like doom and gloom, like the game's ending, we're screwed. And to be fair, I've made my fair share of dramatic titles and thumbnails that are a little like over dramatized, but we just have to keep on communicating where the pain points are. In my personal opinion, I think think they're trying to solve the wrong problem right now. Killers are doing certain behaviors because they don't have any other way to create pressure. Gens are just popping too fast. Like last stream, I was playing very nonchalant. I was like spreading out hooks, and it was just losses and draws, meaning it's very hard to consistently win without tunneling. So again, we went over in our last video a lot of good ideas on how to fix that and how to allow killers to gain pressure. Like if Behaviour just looked through that comment section, I feel like they'd find a bunch of like viable options. But yeah, I think it's just important not to lose hope, just to keep a positive attitude. So that's kind of like a serious tone, but to perk you guys up, I'm adding a new segment called the Wheel of Adepts. So in this new segment, we're gonna spin a wheel of killers, which will decide what adept we do next. I basically have no adepts to this point, and our first adept on our next stream is gonna be the Hag, the least played killer, a killer I don't think I've played in probably 6 months. She has Devour Hope. She has... What does she have? Did she have like Hangman's Trick? Nope. And I forget her final perk, but it's probably not the best perk, and I'm probably not going to have fun. So if you want to watch that adept, I'm going to be live on stream at twitch.tv/StrazYT, and who knows, if it's good content, maybe we'll make a YouTube video out of it. If I've already made that video, I'll link it right here. If not, watch this video.